In a previous episode, I talked about the 31st Waffen-SS Volunteer Grenadier Division, Bachka, which was manned by ethnic Germans from the Bachka region of Hungary. As I mentioned back then, it was not the only unit raised in Hungarian territory. Two other formations followed shortly after, as part of a German-Hungarian agreement that was signed in late October 1944. It stipulated that 8 new divisions would be formed, of which 4 would be in the Royal Hungarian Army, while the other 4 would join the Waffen-SS. Due to German resistance, the first group never materialized, while the second eventually consisted of 2 units, which received the names Hunyadi and Hungaria. Their contribution to the war effort was minimal, but their story still deserves a video. Even before Admiral Horthy's removal in August, the SS Kampfgruppe Deák was raised by László Deák, a former officer of the Royal Hungarian Army, who had participated in the Újvidék massacre back in 1942 and then fled to Germany to avoid imprisonment in Horthy's Hungary. This battalion-sized unit was sent south to Titel in the Bachka region, but by late October it had to retreat to Transdanubia. In the same month, a new agreement was signed by Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler and Prime Minister Szálasi regarding the formation of new Hungarian divisions, followed by another meeting in Berlin in late November to hammer out the details. SS Kampfgruppe Deák joined the first of these divisions, the 25th Waffen-Grenadier Division Hunyadi, which was gathering around the city of Zalaegerszeg before being transported to Neuhammer in Silesia. Lieutenant General József Grassi, the organizer of the Újvidék massacre, was appointed as its commander, while more volunteers and elements of 13th Infantry Division were added to reach the required size of 10,000 men. The new recruits can be categorized as follows. One group consisted of enthusiastic young men who believed they would receive better training and equipment from the Waffen-SS, which was solely responsible for these tasks, while the other, perhaps much larger group felt that they could stay away from the actual fighting, and the war would hopefully end by the time training concluded. It's no coincidence that by early December, instead of the originally planned 10,000, more than 22,000 people gathered, even after losing 800 men to an American strafing attack en route to Silesia. Neuhammer was one of the largest training centers, but at the time, Estonian and Russian volunteers were also staying there, so even beds had to be shared, while rations were low. Some received Waffen-SS uniforms, others wore Hungarian or German regular army uniforms, and even civilian clothes. Each company received 12 to 15 rifles, 1 or 2 LMGs, and a few Panzerfausts for training. Later on, in January, captured Belgian and French uniforms were used, but heavy weapons were completely missing. Only a single battalion, the former SS Kampfgruppe, was properly equipped. To relieve the pressure on Neuhammer, several units were sent elsewhere. The Engineer Battalion moved to Passau for training, the Artillery Regiment ended up near Prague, the Anti-Tank Battalion was sent to Koblenz and fought along the 9th SS Panzer Division in Hungary, while the Ski Battalion was detached from the division to be fully equipped and used as a reserve unit. Some smaller formations were sent to Holland. At the end of 1944, the Hunyadi Division was about 25% equipped, with almost 3,000 rifles, 155 assault rifles, 3,000 Panzerfausts, 71 light and 3 heavy machine guns, 5 heavy anti-tank guns, 1,600 bicycles, and 27 trucks. Newly arrived Hungarian field gendarme units were added, under the command of Captain Márton Zöldi, who had also been convicted for his role in the Újvidék massacre. In January and February alone, 20 men were executed to restore and maintain discipline. Due to the large number of trainees, permission arrived to set up a second division, which would become the 26th Waffen-Grenadier Division Hungaria, although the same number had originally been assigned to a new SS Panzer Division, which never materialized. Facilities proved inadequate to sustain such a large crowd, so this unit was sent to Zieracz, near Lodz, with around 8,000 men, 800 rifles, 860 carbines, 100 Italian SMGs, 500 Panzerfausts, 50 Panzerschrecks, and a few machine guns and anti-tank guns. When the Soviet offensive began in mid-January, the Hungarians were forced to retreat, suffering heavy casualties, among them the division's commander, Colonel Pischke, although they managed to capture Soviet arms and destroy a few Soviet tanks. One group was eventually captured and the Soviets executed 170 of the survivors, while the other group reached Leszno by the end of the month. Overall, more than 3,000 men were lost. In early February, the retreat continued. The division was ordered to move towards Nürnberg, where the Hunyadi division was also gathering. After some confusion, Lieutenant General Grassi assumed command of both divisions, and we also know that in early March, the combined units had 5,000 rifles, 100 light machine guns, 3,000 Panzerfausts, 300 submachine guns, 50 medium mortars, and 11 light field howitzers. Training and equipping the divisions could not be completed. At first, they received orders to move east again, but the Soviet advance changed everything, so another order arrived, listing Austria as the new destination. One combat group was redirected towards Brno, where they eventually surrendered to Soviet forces, but the bulk of the Hungarian divisions arrived in Upper Austria via Salzburg. During this period, a company of volunteers were sent to Rostock, then to Denmark for further training. In April, they were ordered to Berlin, where they participated in the fighting near the Brandenburg Gate. During the siege, most of them fell, but the remaining survivors could eventually return to Hungary, as they did not wear the infamous SS tattoos. Meanwhile, the previously detached Engineer Battalion, after serious German pressure and threats, participated in the defense of Passau, blowing the main bridge and destroying other strategic points before breaking out in early May towards Oberhausen. Their losses were severe, even though the Americans did not force major clashes to preserve their own forces. At this point of the war, they just wanted to avoid unnecessary casualties. In mid-April, the two Hungarian Waffen divisions, this name was used for units that did not consist of true Aryans when compared to ethnic German and Nordic formations, were in Upper Austria. By early May, the situation became untenable as the Soviets were advancing from the north and their American counterparts reached this region from the west. Surrender was offered to the American forces, but before the negotiations could be completed, General Patton's 3rd Army engaged the 25th Division at Timelkam. A few American tanks were lost, the rest of the force withdrew, but 3 days later, on the 5th of May, the surrender agreements were finalized. About 1/3 of the 25th Waffen-Grenadier Division Hunyadi marched into captivity at Salzkammergut, while the rest tried to hide among the Hungarian civilian refugees. Some of them succeeded, a few officers managed to flee to the British and French occupation zones, but the SS tattoos revealed their true identity, so most of the men were treated as regular Waffen-SS members. Lieutenant General Grassi, along with other officers, were eventually returned to Hungary, where the new government turned them over to the Yugoslav authorities. They were tried and then executed for their war crimes, at a time when other war crimes were being committed by the other side, although technically these took place right after the conclusion of the war. Overall, almost 40,000 Hungarians were captured by the Allies in and around Austria. Their fate is not always known, but we can say with some certainty that most of them were sent to the Soviet Union, although we are also aware of a handful of former soldiers who joined the French Foreign Legion to get out of French captivity. Apart from another unit, the SS Regiment Ney, these were the main Hungarian SS formations. As mentioned, their contribution was minimal. The circumstances simply did not allow serious participation. Their eventual downfall was inevitable.